Thank you. Thank you, friends. Let me say something about the gentleman that you've just heard from. His excessive comments this afternoon are not indicative of his true personality. Bob McCabe was the longtime president of this great educational institution. He's not only thought of to be great by his friends and admirers, he was also selected by the MacArthur Foundation to receive a Genius Award. So you are in the presence of a certified genius. Bob has made many contributions to this community, and his wife, who happens to be my wife's best friend, Arva McCabe, is also probably the most distinguished historian of Southern Florida. Friends, first I want to thank you for being here. This is one of the most important cultural events in the life of our community. It is an opportunity for people who care about ideas and books to come together to not only learn about some recent writings, but also to share your values and thoughts. This is an indication to the world, which sometimes thinks that all the people who live in Miami are interested in is beach and sun, that there are many of our fellow citizens who are very engaged in the ideas and actions of the moment. And that in many ways is the summary of the book that I'm going to be talking about. But before I start on that, I'm going to ask you two questions. The first will be geography, and the second will be biography. First, how many of you have ever been to South Beach? Please raise your hand. Okay. You did very well. Congratulations. Now we're going to come to the biography. How many of you know Barbara Capitman? Okay, a smaller but not insignificant group. Barbara Capitman is why there is a South Beach today. Let me tell you the story. South Beach was developed largely in the period after World War I and became a major national and international tourist destination. But by the 1970s, it was falling onto hard times. Disney had been constructed, and many people referred to it as the Iron Curtain that kept tourists from moving further south. They felt that Miami Beach had become an antiquated place. Frankly, that they thought there were too many elderly people who lived there, and as one who just celebrated my 73rd birthday, that I take great offense at that, and that it was no longer attractive for tourism. And so in 1976, the city government of Miami Beach announced a plan to convert Miami Beach, particularly South Beach, into a new international resort. In many ways, they took their ideas from Disney World. This was going to be Disney World South. One of the consequences of Disney World South was that much of South Beach would be leveled in order to create the platform for this new destination. There was much applause for this plan, and it appeared to have the support of the economic and political power structure, not only of Miami Beach, but of much of Florida. One woman stepped forward. Her name was Barbara Capitman. Barbara came from a family that had influenced the Art Deco movement. Art Deco was essentially the application of industrial designs to non-industrial settings, including architecture, but also everyday appliances. If you go to the Wolfsonian Museum on South Beach, you'll see a good example of the extent of Art Deco influence, particularly in the 30s and 40s. She came out of that. She had a knowledge and a passion for that form of design. Second, her recently deceased husband had been a professor of marketing, and they had shared ideas about how do you persuade and influence people, particularly in areas of consumer choice. With those two elements, she said, you're making a big mistake. The future of South Beach is not going to be to replicate Mickey Mouse. The future of South Beach is going to be to save this special architecture, to save the romance and nostalgia that for many Americans they associate with South Beach. I am going to lead the effort to overcome all of these groups that are advocating its destruction. In 3 years, based on her knowledge of and ability to influence key decision makers in Miami Beach, in Dade County, in Florida, and in Washington, South Beach became the first national historic district that commenced in the 20th century in the United States of America. A very audacious objective, brilliantly executed and achieved. She then spent the rest of her life trying to convince the local governments of Dade, and I show my age by not using the modern word, Miami-Dade County, and Miami Beach, to develop the ordinances and other necessary legal mechanisms to protect this national historic district. Unfortunately, she died 3 years before the full realization of her effort. But there is now a street, I believe it is 10th Street on South Beach, which is named for Barbara. I cite her because she is emblematic of the kind of person that I believe all Americans can be if they have a sufficient amount of internal self-confidence and a willingness to acquire the competencies to be an effective citizen. This book, America, the Owner's Manual, is devoted to preparing all Americans for active and effective and honorable citizenship. I have defined, and this is totally my doing, I do not hold anybody else responsible, what I consider to be the 10 essential skills of effective citizenship. Barbara had most of those skills. She had the skills through her experience in marketing with knowing the customer and how to influence the customer. Because of her background in Art Deco, she had already done the research as to why this was an important part of American culture which deserved to be protected and enhanced. Barbara Capitman, unfortunately, is the example which is becoming increasingly rare in America. Those of you who are my generation and a generation younger have lived through a period of massive decline in citizenship in America. By almost any indicator of active citizenship, basics like voting, volunteering, joining organizations that have a civic objective, working with your neighbors to solve a local problem. Americans today are dramatically less likely to do any of those than they did 2 generations ago. I put a lot of the blame of that on several institutions. One of those is our educational institution. As Bob said, I graduated from Miami Senior High School in 1955. I'd gone to Hialeah Elementary and Junior High before that. Between the 7th grade and the 12th grade, I had taken the amount of civics which was typical for Americans of my generation. 3 courses, 3 one-year courses, including a basic introduction, a course that was called Problems of Democracy, where you learn to analyze issues and discuss them intelligently, and how to be a citizen, the competencies, the skills of effective citizenship.